If you are enjoying this video, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell. Share it with your friends, and let me know in the comments, where are you watching from? Every like and subscribe helps the channel grow. You ever take a route so familiar, you swear your truck could drive it without you? That was Charlie Benson's stretch of I-84, eastbound. He'd been hauling freight across it for 20 years, more miles logged than most drivers saw in a lifetime. He'd seen it all. Hailstorms in July, deer with glowing eyes, even a guy once walking down the center line at 2 a.m., wearing nothing but cowboy boots and a smile. But he'd never seen Exit 54. Not until that night. It was a quiet stretch, the kind where you don't see headlights in either direction for an hour at a time. Just you, the blacktop, and whatever shadows tag along. Charlie was riding tired, his thermos long emptied, and the last AM station fuzzed out. He needed fuel. Both kinds. A sign flickered into view, one of those old highway boards with peeling letters and half-lit bulbs. Baird's Stop and Fuel. Open 24 hours. Exit 54, 1 mile ahead. Charlie blinked. Slowed. He didn't remember seeing that sign before. He'd taken this road at least 100 times. Still, gas was low. His bladder was full, and he hadn't eaten since Boise. Exit 54 came up like it had always been there. As he turned off, the truck's GPS blinked for a second like it couldn't quite pin down where he was. Then it just shut off. Blank screen. Charlie smacked it with the side of his hand. Nothing. The road wound downward into a hollow of fog and pines, the trees crowding closer than seemed natural. Then the truck stop appeared. Dim lighting, a crooked canopy over the gas pumps, and a diner with cracked neon buzzing eats like a dying fly. Charlie parked, stepped out, and stretched. Everything was too quiet. No trucks idling, no music leaking from radios. Just the distant tick-tick-tick of the cooling engine. He walked past the pumps, noting they were ancient, the analog kind with spinning numbers, faded stickers, and a distinct smell of old diesel. He glanced around. A single semi was parked. Off to the side, trailer covered in grime, no driver in sight. Inside the diner it was warm but stale, like the air hadn't turned over in years. A waitress with tired eyes handed him a menu without a word. Her name tag read Bev. She looked like she'd been standing behind that counter since the Nixon administration. The menu was laminated, yellowed, sticky at the edges. Charlie ordered a cheeseburger and coffee. Bev nodded without writing anything down. That's when he noticed the wall of Polaroids, lined up above the windows. Dozens of them, all truckers. Most looked recent. One guy was still holding a Slim Jim and smiling. A few faces Charlie recognized. One in particular stuck out. Reggie Malloy. Drove for Northern Lanes, vanished 3 months ago near Salt Lake. No one ever found him. But here he was, smiling under a Baird's Stop and Fuel sign. Charlie got up and walked over. "Friends of yours?" Bev asked, voice dull. "Couple familiar," he muttered. "You get a lot of drivers through here?" "All kinds," she said. "They stop, rest, then keep on driving." Charlie's skin prickled. The coffee came out, black and burnt tasting. The burger never arrived. He asked about it. Bev just stared like she didn't understand the question. In the bathroom, one of the motion sensor lights flickered but didn't turn on. He heard a whisper behind him as he washed his hands. But when he turned, the stalls were empty. And when he came out, the Polaroid wall had a new photo tacked onto the end. Him, taken just minutes ago, holding the coffee. Bev just smiled when he froze. "You're one of us now." Charlie left the diner fast, not looking back. As he climbed into the truck, he noticed his rig had been moved slightly, angled different, like someone had climbed in and adjusted it. His GPS powered back on, but Exit 54 was gone. There was no truck stop on the map, just endless highway, and Charlie knew he'd be back, one way or another. Charlie didn't talk much on the CB anymore, not since the apps and GPS trackers took over. Most younger drivers couldn't be bothered, but on lonely nights like this, he kept it on, more for comfort than conversation. After pulling out of Baird's Stop and Fuel, he hadn't seen another rig in over 40 miles. The headlights cut through fog that felt too thick, like it was alive. His tires hummed on the asphalt, rhythmic, hypnotic. He'd been trying to shake the image of his own face up on that Polaroid wall. He couldn't. At first, the CB was just static. Normal stuff, like white noise. But around 1:17 a.m., the dial buzzed. Real short, just a pop. Then, help. Charlie flinched. He leaned forward, squinting at the radio. Static again. He flipped channels, thinking maybe he'd picked up a stray emergency band. But there was nothing. Then, clear as if someone were in the seat beside him, exit 54, don't go back. The voice was cracked and raspy, familiar. He reached for the mic, thumbed the button. Breaker, you repeat that? Silence. Then, Charlie, it's Reggie. Don't go back. They see you now. Charlie damn near dropped the mic. Reggie? He barked, heart thumping. Where the hell are you? Static. Then garbled sound, like someone underwater. Another voice broke through. Female this time. High-pitched, afraid. I didn't want to stop. They made me. Don't stop again. Don't. It cut out. Charlie slowed down, scanning the shoulder, half expecting to see someone waving him down. But there was nothing. Just the trees. Just the fog. Just the dark. The CB sputtered again. One final message, distorted, like old tape. Next time they'll take you, Charlie. He shut the CB off. Didn't turn it back on again that night. When morning came, he pulled into a regular rest stop near Twin Falls, full of life, truckers milling about, sun shining off windshields. Normal. He told a couple guys about the voices. Joked about haunted frequencies. One older dude with a faded denim vest stopped chewing mid-bite and said, "You hear 'em too, huh?" Charlie froze. "What?" "The dead ones," the man said. "You drive this road long enough, they talk. To you. Especially if you've been to Baird's." Charlie felt his spine go cold. "How do you know Baird's?" The man just looked at him like he wanted to say something but thought better of it. He stuffed the rest of his sandwich in his mouth and walked away. Back in his cab, Charlie opened his logbook. Inside the sleeve was a Polaroid. Him again. Only this time, he wasn't alone. In the background of the photo, barely visible in the shadows near the pumps, were three figures, faces pale, watching, waiting. And Charlie knew deep in his gut, they were real, and they were coming for him. Want me to roll on into Chapter 3? Return to Baird's? That's when Charlie decides to go back. And nothing about that truck stop is the same. Let's keep driving. Buckle up. We're heading back to where no one should ever return. Charlie should have kept driving. Should have turned east toward Montana, picked up a clean load and just put miles behind him. But something had its hooks in him. It wasn't just the voices. It was that photo. That second Polaroid that hadn't been there the night before. He hadn't taken it. He hadn't even stopped. So how the hell was it now in his logbook staring back at him? Worse, those figures in the background. He saw them again, in the mirrors. Once, passing an overpass, he swore one was just standing, there on the shoulder watching. Pale face, dark eyes. Gone the second he blinked. It was like the road itself wanted him to return. So Charlie gave in. He punched Baird's stop and fuel into his GPS. No result. He searched online. Nothing. But the CB crackled that night. Same low. Hum as before. And someone whispered, "Just drive. You'll find it." It was 11:46 p.m. when the old Exit 54 sign rose out of the dark like a phantom. Same faded paint. Same flickering bulbs. But the gas price had changed. Like it had been waiting for him, he pulled off, and this time, Baird's looked worse. The canopy over the pump sagged like it had been through a storm. One of the lights was busted and swinging loose, throwing wild shadows. The store windows were dusty, dark, and cracked. Charlie stepped out. Instantly colder than it should have been. He walked to the diner door. The open sign was unlit. Still, he pulled it open. The bell above the door gave a low, sickly chime. Inside it was different, not just run down, wrong. The tables were warped. The jukebox in the corner was playing, but no music came out. The lights flickered as if straining to stay on. And no Bev, just a guy in a booth, staring at the table. "Hey," Charlie said, walking over. "You all right?" The man didn't look up. His skin was gray. Not sick gray. Dead gray. Charlie backed up. That's when he noticed the booth behind the man was full. Every seat. All silent. Staring ahead, unmoving. Each one looked like the Polaroids. One of them even wore the same Northern Lanes jacket Reggie used to wear. Charlie stumbled back, breath catching in his throat. Then, a soft voice behind him. "She said you'd come back." He spun. "Bev, same apron, same name tag, same dead eyes." "You don't belong here," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "But you came back," she replied. "That makes you one of us." Charlie turned and bolted out the door. But the truck stop had changed. The parking lot was gone. In its place, endless rows of parked trucks. Silent, idling. Every one of them had a figure behind the wheel, and not one of them blinked. He ran to his rig, locked the door, started the engine. The GPS blinked back to life. It read, "Route unavailable." The map showed no roads, just black. One glowing red dot labeled, "You are here." Charlie floored it, tearing out of the lot, back up the ramp, back to the highway. But it didn't look like the highway anymore. The lines on the road were gone. The trees leaned in. The fog was thicker, and the CB buzzed. "Don't run. You're part of the convoy now." He shut it off. Didn't sleep that night. Didn't stop. But every road he tried brought him back to the same thing. Exit 54. Let's pop the hood and crawl deeper into the engine of this nightmare. Charlie didn't stop the next time he saw Exit 54. He circled it, twice. Tried passing it, driving on into the dawn. But the further he went, the more it all bled together. Mile after mile of empty blacktop that refused to end. Eventually, his rig's dash started clocking backwards. He blinked, wiped his eyes. The odometer ticked down like time was reversing. And then the sign appeared again. Exit 54. Baird stop and fuel. Charlie laughed. Bitter, hollow. Guess I ain't getting out that easy. He parked farther out this time, killed the engine, took his flashlight, his .38, and a crowbar from under the seat. He wasn't coming in as a customer anymore. He was hunting for answers. The pumps were leaking. He could smell it. Sour, chemical, wrong. The ground felt soft, spongy under his boots, like the asphalt was tired of holding weight. He followed a trail of damp footprints around the side of the diner. That's when he saw it. The hatch, half covered in gravel, hidden behind a rusted-out Coke machine. The kind of thing you'd mistake for utility access unless you were looking. Charlie pried it open. A metal ladder led down into darkness. He hesitated, then muttered, "To hell with it," and climbed down. What he found under Baird's stop wasn't a basement. It was a sanctuary. The walls were lined with old CB radios, still powered, still chattering with whispers from dead channels. There were bones in the corners, jackets, trucker caps, boots, souvenirs. And at the center, a stone altar made from diesel drums and truck parts, engine belts coiled like snakes, old logbooks stacked in a pyramid, a red smear across the top. Still wet? Charlie stepped closer. There was a book, bound in black leather, trucking logos burned into the cover, warped and wrong. Inside, names were written, dozens of them, dates, times. Next to each name, delivered, the last name, Charlie Benson. Scheduled, tonight. He slammed the book shut, breath ragged. Behind him, the hatch slammed closed. Charlie spun, flashlight cutting, across shadows, and that's when they stepped out. 3 figures, all in trucker gear, faces pale and waxy. One of them had Reggie's jacket. "Welcome," the middle one said, voice hollow. "You've been chosen. I didn't sign up for this. You drove the road. You stayed the night. You heard the voices. The pact is made. Charlie raised the .38, not without a fight. The figure laughed. No one fights the road, Charlie. The endless one sees all. He feeds. And now, it pointed at the altar. You deliver, or you are delivered. Charlie didn't. Remember how he got back to the truck? 1 second he was in that room, surrounded. The next he was slamming the door shut, sweating bullets, gunning the engine. But the hatchet was still open behind the diner, waiting. Charlie didn't think he was being followed at first. He couldn't hear them. No engines revving, no headlights, trailing in his rear view. But the feeling? It was there. Pressing down on his chest, squeezing the air out of his lungs. His rig's engine hummed low, but every now and then he'd glance over his shoulder and swear he saw headlights cutting through the fog. But when he turned the corner, the road behind him was always empty. The miles passed in a blur. He barely felt the time go by, like he was trapped in some kind of dream where everything moved too fast. And yet, somehow, nothing changed. That's when the radio started. Channel 19 was always busy, full of truckers yapping about loads, routes, and the usual road banter. But tonight, it was different. There was an eerie, almost melodic hum coming through the static, broken only by an occasional whisper. Charlie, his breath hitched. He didn't touch the mic, just listened. Charlie, you're not alone. We are always behind you now. Charlie slammed the mic into his hand. Who is this? His voice cracked. Who's there? We were all chosen. The pact is made. You are with us now, forever. Charlie's stomach churned. He switched to another channel. Nothing. Static. He glanced back at his mirrors. His eyes locked on the blackness behind him. Nothing. Then through the fog, a single red light appeared. Headlights. But these weren't the same as the trucks passing him earlier. They were too bright, too close. And before he could process what was happening, the rig behind him swerved into his lane. Charlie fought the wheel, pulling hard to the right, but the other truck didn't follow. It just hovered, always in his blind spot. It was there, but not there. The figure in the driver's seat didn't move. Charlie's hands gripped the wheel tight. He punched the gas, trying to outrun it, but every time he looked in his mirror, the truck was there, right beside him, as if waiting. His truck was roaring now, the sound of the engine shaking through his bones, but it didn't matter. No matter how fast he went, they stayed with him. Then the radio crackled again, soft at first. You can't outrun it. You can't leave. The voice was familiar, but it wasn't Reggie's. It wasn't Bev's either. It was everyone. Everyone he had ever seen on the road. Every trucker who had disappeared. Every face he had seen in the Polaroids. They were all speaking through the static. Charlie swerved again, only to slam on the brakes as the road before him shifted. The asphalt changed, melted, right before his eyes. There was no exit, no detour, no way out. It was just the endless road, stretching on forever, and the trucks behind him. They were now all around him. The rigs had appeared out of the fog. Massive, monstrous, their headlights glowing like eyes in the night. Each truck had a face in the window now, staring at him with hollow eyes. Charlie slammed his fist against the horn. It didn't matter. No one was listening. There was no one to save him. The convoy was complete. The trucks kept moving, surrounding him. His heart hammered in his chest, his head spinning when suddenly the fog thinned. Ahead of him in the distance, the sign started to appear. Exit 54. He wasn't sure how long he had been driving. Hours, days. But one thing was clear. The road had led him back, and the only choice he had now was to follow it, like every other trucker before him. Charlie pulled into the parking lot of Baird's Stop and Fuel once again. The same parking lot, the same rusty pumps, the same tired glow of the diner lights. The convoy stopped behind him. One by one, the trucks parked and shut off. They were silent now. No more chatter. No more voices. Charlie couldn't make himself move. There was a low rumble in the distance, a low chant, growing louder. A familiar voice came through the CB, distorted by the feedback. "You're one of us now, Charlie. You always were." Charlie's fingers shook as he reached for the door. But when he touched the handle, the entire parking lot flickered. The trucks, the diner, the figures in the windows. It all shuddered like a broken television screen. Then, the lights went out. "All right, here we go, the final chapter. Buckle up because we're taking this nightmare all the way to the end." The darkness pressed in like a weight. Charlie's truck sat in the lot, his headlights cutting through the blackness, but it didn't feel like he was alone. He never was anymore. The air tasted stale, thick with the scent of gasoline and sweat. The ground was too soft beneath his boots, and it felt like the earth itself was sinking under the weight of the trucks that had gathered around him. The trucks had parked in a perfect circle. The rigs were silent now, their engines muted as if they were waiting for something or someone. Charlie's heart beat loudly in his ears as he gripped the wheel. The truck's interior felt suffocating, too small, too tight. Sweat trickled down his neck and his mind raced. He wanted to tear out of there. He needed to. But the voices, those whispers, the ones that had been following him all night, calling his name from the static, were louder now, clearer. They echoed inside his skull. "It's time. You are the final delivery, Charlie." He shuddered. The final delivery. For the first time in his life, Charlie felt the full weight of it all. The road was a trap. The trucks behind him, the ones that had followed, were not just vehicles. They were part of the pact, part of the cult that ran this cursed place. They were as much dead as the people who drove them, and Charlie had driven into their grasp. He opened the door to the truck and stepped outside. The gravel crunched beneath his boots, but it felt more like he was sinking into the earth. His feet were heavy, his body sluggish. He turned toward the diner. It was waiting for him. The door to the diner was wide open, the lights flickering inside. No sounds, no voices. Just the eerie hum of a radio playing static. The figures from before, the ones he had seen in the windows, were inside now. They were standing by the counter, frozen in place, their faces pale and blank. And then, from behind him, a voice broke through the silence. "Come on, Charlie." It was Reggie's voice. Louder now, almost commanding. Familiar. Charlie turned. Around. The figure was standing there, stepping out of the shadows, wearing a trucker cap. His face was gaunt, hollowed out, his eyes empty. Reggie. Reggie was dead. "No," Charlie gasped, stumbling back. But the figure only smiled, a slow, crooked grin that didn't reach his eyes. "You belong with us now, Charlie." Charlie's legs gave out, but he didn't fall. The ground beneath him felt like it was giving way, sucking him in. The trucks behind him started up again, their engines roaring to life in unison. He could hear the chanting again, the low hum, like a group of people whispering in unison. The figures inside the diner turned toward him now, all of them moving, in unison, their heads jerking toward him with unnatural precision. Their eyes were locked on him, hollow and empty. Charlie backed away, but he couldn't leave. He tried running, tried darting toward his truck, but every time he turned his head, the trucks had moved closer. They surrounded him like vultures waiting to pick at the bones of their next meal. And then he saw it. At the center of the diner, a strange altar had appeared. It was made from old truck parts, steering wheels, exhaust pipes, and tires. The altar was covered in blood. The walls were lined with pictures of truckers who had gone missing over the years. All of them had one thing in common. They had all stopped at this truck stop. "You are the last, Charlie," the voice said again. "The last of many." Charlie's heart pounded in his chest. He was trapped, surrounded by the ghosts of the lost souls who had driven this road before him, and they weren't going to let him leave. The truckers, the spirits, they didn't want him to die. They wanted him to stay. Charlie's mind raced. The road, the diner, the truck stop, it was all a trap. A cult had been here for years, pulling drivers into their web, turning them into sacrifices for whatever dark power they served. He had been chosen, and now it was his turn. The figures in the diner began to move toward him, their footsteps slow and deliberate. Reggie's voice came through again, clearer now. "It's time. You'll be with us forever, Charlie." But Charlie wasn't going down that easy. He turned toward his truck. The rig's engine was running. His truck had never been so alive, like it was calling to him, urging him to climb aboard. Without thinking, he sprinted for the door. The figures in the diner lunged forward, but Charlie was faster. He tore through the lot, slamming into the side of the truck, throwing himself behind the wheel. He gunned the engine. The rig roared to life. The trucks closed in, but Charlie didn't stop. He slammed his foot down harder on the gas, the tires screeching against the pavement. The fog enveloped him again, thick and choking, but he couldn't stop now. He was driving for his life, driving for freedom. The road twisted and turned, the lights flashing past him. But no matter how fast he went, the trucks followed. They were right there, in his mirrors, in his blind spots. The spirits were still with him. Charlie didn't know if he was still alive. He didn't know how long he'd been driving, but the truck stop was gone. The road stretched out into infinity, and the trucks, the ghosts, and the ritual, they were all behind him. For now, Charlie had made it out. But at what cost? Is he free, or was this just the beginning?